بسم الله. جزاك الله خير. Reading, brothers. Inshallah, we'll begin.
Sorry, can you recap last week's and then?
Sure, yeah, for sure. Before we begin, let's do a quick review. Obviously, we don't want to spend too much time, but it's good to make sure that we're retaining something of what we are learning, inshallah. Let's begin at the beginning. The first of the Imams of the Kutub al-Sitta, of the 6 main books of Hadith, we looked at was who? Does anybody remember? No, that's going to be the last one we look at. Who's the first one we looked at? Remember, we're starting at the end. Definitely not Ibn Hajar. Imam al-Nasa'i. Ahsant. So Imam al-Nasa'i, right? Abu Abdurrahman, Ahmad ibn Shu'aib, right? Al-Nasa'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, from Al-Nasa, which is in Khurasan, right? Non-Arab, Sahara, Central Asia. He died in the year what? 303 Hijri, ahsant, mashallah, barakallah feekum. So Imam al-Nasa'i, I just mentioned his name, but let's see who was paying attention. What's his name? This is not a test, guys. Yeah, if you have it in your notes, look in your notes, inshallah. Ahmad ibn Shu'aib. Okay, and his kunya was Abu Abdurrahman. Abu Abdurrahman. So Abu Abdurrahman, Ahmad ibn Shu'aib, ibn Ali, al-Nasa'i, rahimahullah ta'ala. Who are some of his shuyukh? The teachers of Imam al-Nasa'i. We don't have to have all of them, just maybe one or two. We mentioned names. Important. Huh? They definitely not were not Sahabi. He died in the year 303. The last Sahabi to die was in the year 109 Hijri. Abu Tufail, radiallahu anhu. 107, 109, something like that. No one? Ishaq ibn Rahaway, or Rahuya, correct pronunciation of his name, right? Bishr ibn Hilal, Sawaf, Tamim al-Muntasir. These are names I told you, remember, they're going to come up a lot. You're going to see today as well. Names that come up a lot. Hisham ibn Ammar, rahimahullah ta'ala. We mentioned other names, but that's good enough. Some of his talamid, his students, we mentioned 2 of Imam al-Nasa'i. Abu Ja'far man. Abu Ja'far Ish. Al-Tahawi. Imam al-Tahawi was from the students of Imam al-Nasa'i. Okay, Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, who famously wrote the great hadith collection of Mushkil al-Athar, right? That was then explained by the great subcontinent Imam Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Azim Abadi, called Mishkat al-Mishkat. So he has Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, from his students, and another notable name. Who remembers?
Abu Ali.
Ahsant, Abu Ali. From where is he from?
I don't know how to say it.
Try.
An-Nasaiburi.
An-Naysaburi, close. النيسابوري.
النيسابوري.
What was special? We know Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi is a great Imam. Shafi'i, ثم تحنف, right? He was Shafi'i, then he became Hanafi. He's a great exegete of the Quran, Mufassir and Muhaddith, and طيب, Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi wrote the great Imam book in Aqidah called Aqidah al-Tahawiyah, right? Where he gathered the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah, but specifically the Aqidah of Imam Abu Hanifa and the Aqidah of his two main students, Imam Abu Yaqub, Abu Yusuf Yaqub Ibrahim al-Ansari, right? Also known as Qadi Abu Yusuf, and his other student Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani rahimahullah ta'ala, rahimahumullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah. And he wrote this book called, and it's known today as Al-Aqidah al-Tahawiyah, correct? What was special about Abu Ali al-Naysaburi? Why mention him? There's others, but we said class will stick with these guys. There's many others, notable. But why do we stick with Abu Ali al-Naysaburi? What was special about him? Whether you have a pen or a pencil?
Yeah, no.
No?
It's in my head.
No, it's okay, I got you.
I can bring it.
No, it's fine. I got you, brother. Yeah? What was special about Abu Ali al-Naysaburi? Here you go, brother. Here you go. No problem. Here you go, brother. So I don't know if they brought pens today. طيب, what was special about Abu Ali al-Naysaburi, brothers? We said that Abu Ali al-Naysaburi, rahimahullah ta'ala, was one of the main students of Imam al-Nasa'i, narrated his sunnah, his sunan collection, his jami'. Also, he narrated much about his life, right? About his events that happened to Imam al-Nasa'i. You see the name Abu Ali al-Naysaburi there. So in terms of knowing about his life events, the scholar by the name of Abu Ali al-Naysaburi is important. He's important when it comes to the narration of the hadith of Imam al-Nasa'i, also the life of Imam al-Nasa'i. Okay, he spent a large amount of time with Imam al-Nasa'i, probably more than Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi. طيب, let's go on to Imam al-Tirmidhi. طيب, what was Imam al-Tirmidhi's name?
Muhammad ibn Isa.
Ahsant. That's good enough. Muhammad ibn Isa. طيب, what was his kunya?
Abu Isa.
Ahsant. He named his son after his father, right? Muhammad ibn Isa, and he named his son Isa. Sahullah. Remember we talked about it. That's a traditional Arab. It's a traditional Arab move. If you don't know what to name your son, you see a lot. And I gave an example of which Sahabi. These are these classes. I'm going to ask you questions, brothers. Yeah, there's no point of me being here and teaching if we're not going to retain. So there's many Sahaba, but I give you an example of one famous Sahabi who named his son after his father. I'll give you a hint. He's related to the Prophet ﷺ. He's from the Ahlul Bayt.
Ali?
No. Ali's children are Hassan and Hussein. Ali is Abu al-Hasan. Hassan being the elder twin from Hassan and Hussein. And he had other children after Fatima radiallahu anha. I'll give you another hint. That I told you he's from the family. He's the Prophet's cousin, but he's not Ali. It's important for us to know, my brothers and sisters in Islam. I'm unfair to the sisters because I can't hear if they have an answer.
Cousin, is it blood related?
Blood related, brother. His first cousin, like Ali. Radiallahu anhum ajma'in. Younger than Ali for sure, by a lot. At least 10, 12 years. Another hint? He's from the most knowledgeable of the Sahaba when it comes to the Quran. This is a dead giveaway. Good guess.
Ibn Abbas?
Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas, also known as Tarjuman al-Quran, the interpreter of the Quran itself. The Prophet held him when he was a child, when he was a baby. He said, Allahumma allimhu al-Qur'ana wa allimhu ta'wilahu. Oh Allah, teach him, oh Allah, teach him the Quran and teach him the understanding of the Quran. Right? Abdullah bin Abbas at the age of 20 or 18 or 16 or 20, somewhere between that age, was teaching Kibar al-Sahaba tafsir. Right? Umar al-Khattab used to bring him and ask him, teach tafsir. Right? What are our 20-year-olds doing? I know what I was doing when I was 20 or 18 years old. It wasn't tafsir, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, may Allah Allahumma aslih al-ahwal, may Allah rectify the affairs. Ameen. This also goes to show that for the shabab, Abdullah bin Abbas was 18 taqriban, or 17, or no older than 20 for sure when the Prophet died. When the Prophet died, Anas was 20 or 19. Aisha radiallahu anha was 18 when the Prophet died. Like the Sahaba, these were ulama of the Sahaba. They weren't just some farmers or regular Sahaba, kind of regular people, right? They were not only just Sahaba, they were ulama of the Sahaba. And not only ulama of the Sahaba, they were muallimi al-ummah. They were the teachers of the ummah. Right? So we have Abdullah ibn Umar, also young. Abdullah ibn Abbas. The eldest amongst them was probably Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Muammar al-Badri, Abu Abdul Rahman. Right? He lived almost 50 years after the Prophet's death, 30 years after the Prophet's death. But he was when there was only 6 Muslims on the earth, he was one of them. He narrates it. He says, when there was only 6 Muslims on the earth, I was the 6th one. It was the Prophet, Khadija, Abu Bakr, Ali, and then he said, in one narration he says, then it was me. He was the 5th. But most correctly it was the Prophet, Khadija, Ali, Abu Bakr, and then there was one more, who I'm forgetting right now. One more person. No.
Sad.
Zayd ibn al-Haritha, right? And then there was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, watched him pray. The Prophet praying, and then 2 boys behind him, Zayd and Ali, and then Khadija behind. And then he's like, and then there was me. Right? So he's like, old, radiallahu anhu, fought all the battles with the Prophet. So of the Abadila, of the Abdullahs of our ummah, he was probably the oldest. Right? Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Usama ibn Zayd. Usama ibn Zayd was a teenager when the Prophet died. He was maybe, like I said, maybe 20, maybe. So these were all young Sahaba. And Abdullah ibn Abbas left. He was in Mecca, and then he a whole madrasa formed around him. Right? The madrasa of Mecca was Abdullah ibn Abbas. Right? And then Abdullah bin Umar was Medina, right, with Aisha radiallahu anha. Okay, the whole madrasa of that place was there. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, who later became the governor of Medina. The man who was rolling around on the floor, people thought he had a jinn. And he narrates, people who stood around me, they were reciting Quran on me, but I was rolling around on the floor because my stomach hurt so much from hunger. Right? But Allah says what? يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah uplifts those who are believers amongst you, and then those who are given knowledge in levels above others. Right? So Abu Hurairah went from rolling around on the floor from hunger. He's losing his mind from how he just couldn't bear the hunger, the pain of the hunger. He was rolling around on the floor. He went from that to the governor of what? To the governor of Medina. Huh? طيب. So the point why I brought that up is as a bab min bab at-tashji', like to encourage our youth to not be trivial. You know, this culture that we belong to, this, I don't even want to say Western, this modern culture of triviality, it teaches us to seek triviality. When we have free time, we watch FIFA, right? We watch movies, we watch shows, binge watch shows, Now they have things on Netflix where they call, the bingeability of like shows, So, you go on Netflix and it shows you different categories. Now they have a category, okay, on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. These things all blend together for me. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's Netflix. But I saw on Netflix, I'm like, what's that? And on the Netflix it showed binge-worthy shows. I'm like, so it's not good enough that you watch a movie, waste 2 hours, a movie that's full of naked women and music and shirk most likely, right? Show me a movie that doesn't have that, right? Not even the children's movies are safe anymore, right? And when I mean safe, they were never safe. They always had music and stuff in it. But I'm saying like they're not safe from ideological nonsense. And not only do you have shows that are like 10 seasons long, 8 seasons long. Now there's a whole culture of binging. And people, the kuffar and even Muslims now, I hear it because I teach kids, right? I teach in grades 4 to 8. These kids, they talk to each other. I listen to their conversations. It's the most scary and depressing thing. Scary. It's mind-bogglingly scary. At the age of 10, I have heard grade 4 kids, 5 kids, forget about 6, 7, and 8. It's just crazy. Say things like, this weekend I'm binge watching such and such thing. And I try to keep up to date, but there's so many shows that I don't know. I can't keep up to date, especially with stuff like that I hate. I never liked anime, even before I was practicing. I don't care about anime. But some of these shows that they mention, I go home and I'll Google it on my phone, like, this, I don't know, I don't want to drop any names, what I'm saying, to promote, give some free promotion to some stupid kafir show. But I'll go home and I'll look up this anime, and this anime is full of kufr and shirk. God's killing each other, God's possessing things, God's having half-God demon babies and demons possessing this and blood rituals. There's sihr in the shows. Like full-blown, not even like fake sihr. These people have studied Hindu books, the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gitas, and they've studied Hindu literature, they've studied Jewish mysticism, they've studied Kabbalist books, and they've put in those symbols in their shows. And our children are sitting there binge watching for hours. One kid was boasting with another kid. I watched for 10 hours straight. I didn't sleep last night. I watched 4 seasons of a show. Like, it's insane, my brothers and sisters in Islam, what the kids are doing and what they're exposing themselves to. But if you ask them about Abu Isa at-Tirmidhi, forget even these people. If you ask them about their prophet, just this year, I got very upset and I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was going to quit my job. I asked the grade 6 students. This is an Islamic school. So it's not even in what? Public school, right? I'm in an Islamic school. Bismillah. I asked grade 6 students to name me the 5 pillars of Islam. And they couldn't. And sitting in that classroom were brothers I know who studied with me in Medina, in Kulliyat al-Hadith, and his son is in my class. And he couldn't answer 5 pillars of Islam. He couldn't answer 6 pillars of Iman. His father is a graduate from Kulliyat al-Hadith, a faculty of Hadith, which is probably the most difficult and the most noble of all faculties in Kulliyat al-Hadith, in the Jamia Islamiyya in Medina. His father was a few years behind me. And he's a da'i, but that's his son. So I'm not saying that to knock on the brother. I'm saying that nobody's children are safe unless you connect them to Allah. My children are safe because I studied somewhere. What does that have to do with anything? If I don't spend time with my children and teach my children, it's not easy. It's very difficult. I'm going through Arabic. I'm reviewing Arabic with my son right now, and it's very taxing. I can't show him that. And sometimes he sees it because I get frustrated. But that's the cost of having children. If you don't want to do that, then don't have children. Not in this country. If you don't want to spend time with your kids and raise them, I don't care if you have 1 wife, 2 wives, or 4. If you're popping out kids, you're responsible for them, men. You need to be teaching them about the Prophet ﷺ. You need to be teaching about Tawheed. They can memorize. These kids memorize FIFA, right? Studied a month ago, right near the end of the school year. My homeroom is grade 7. So I spend a lot of time with these 12, 13, and grade 8. I deal with a lot grade 7 and 8. And high school, but mainly grade 7 and 8. Do you know every player, the number of their jersey, where they were playing, what league they play in outside of FIFA, how many trades they've had, how many points they have? Like, we think it's weird, and some of us maybe even think it's idiotic that they have scholars. We have scholars who memorize chains of narrations. Like Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Abbad, the likes of him, memorize hundreds of names. You could recite a chain of narration to Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Abbad, who's still alive, Hafidahullah Ta'ala wa Ra'ah, and he'll tell you who every single one of those people are. Who he is, who his father's name was, where he's from, who his teachers are, who his students are. And what the scholars of hadith said about him. Is he acceptable or is he not acceptable in hadith? But we think that's weird. Well, that's boring. Yeah, but then you memorize 287 names of how many players and how many teams. Like, it's not about what's... all of it's possible. It's just, first of all, are we in love with this deen? Are we in love with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ? Are we in love with those people who carried the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to us? That's Ahlul Hadith. That's the people of Hadith. Those are the narrators of Hadith. Right? Allah said, or the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ النَّاسِ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ اللَّهِ. The one who doesn't thank the people, he's not truly thankful to Allah. The least we can do is know these people by their names. That's the least we can do. That shows that we have some level of love and regard for them. Right? You can't say that you love them if you don't even know who they are, you don't know their names. Sahulullah. So this is important, my brothers and sisters in Islam. I know it might not seem that way, but it's beneficial to remind each other about the importance of knowing these people and who they are. Because if you do not fill the nufus and the souls of ourselves and these children that we have with good, then the shaitan will busy them with that which is evil. So please, my brothers and sisters in Islam, lead by example. Start reading at home more, studying on your own more. Let your children come and say, Baba, what are you doing? You say, I'm reading this book. Yeah, what's that about? And that's it. That's the door. That's the little window that all you need is to get in. Don't leave the TV on all the time. Don't leave them in front of a screen, tablet or laptop or otherwise, or phone or whatever it may be. Put these things away. I'm not saying don't have them. Put them away. Right? Put them away. Let them collect some dust, and let your books be clean. Right? It doesn't have, like every home should have a library. It doesn't matter how big it is. It has to start somewhere. You should have a Quran in obviously English translation because you're living in Canada, and another translation if in your own native language if that's what you want to do. You should have one tafsir. Tafsir Ibn Kathir is readily available by Dar al-Salam. Or you should have the tafsir of Imam al-Sa'di rahmatullahi alayhi, which is also available now in English. I believe it's been translated 3 times. I think Dar al-Salam has a translation, IIPH has a translation, and then there's another one. I don't remember the company, the printing press. But those 2 for sure. Right? You should have that. Then you should have hadith books. You should have Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. You should have Riyadh al-Salihin, right, of Imam al-Nawawi, al-Hafiz al-Nawawi. You should have the 40 hadith of al-Hafiz al-Nawawi in English. They're readily available. Explanations of the scholars, Shaykh Uthaymeen and others. It's available. Right? You should have these books in your libraries. Books on Sunnah. You should have Usul al-Sunnah of Imam Ahmad. You should have that in your home. Right? It's been translated umpteen times. Right? Sharh Sunnah of Imam al-Barbahari, translated by our brother Ustad Abu Talha Dawood Burbank rahimahullah, who died in Hajj, probably 15 years ago, him and his wife. Right? He has the best translation, the explanation of the Creed by Imam al-Barbahari. That's a standard book you should have in your book. These books that you should have in your library. Standard. A house without these books is deficient. Your home is deficient. Your children don't have enough to read. And you guys speak English. You know how many brothers I know who's French and German speaking brothers who learn English so they can read books in Islam? Like, I know because some of my best friends are German speaking people, Germanic speaking people, they're from Switzerland. There's very little available in German. What is available is translated by kuffar, not by Muslims, mustashriqeen, Orientalists. Right? The people who want to attack Islam and dismantle it. So we need to do this work. Yes, my brother.
Just a general question.
Sure.
An observation. Like, I've been to many Muslims' houses, like you said, these books. Many of them have these books, right? But they're collecting dust. They haven't read it for many years. How do we get these people motivated to read it?
Yeah, I mean, motivation comes, brother. Motivation comes through contemplation and understanding. Contemplative, not just contemplation about nothing. I'm talking about contemplation that leads to understanding. Why does Allah Azza wa Jalla always say وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ? That's one of the ways Allah describes the believers. Is what? وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَهَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ. Why? He says, there are those who they ponder and they reflect over the creation of Allah, and then what does that lead to? They say, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَهَا بَاطِلًا. Oh my Lord, you did not create all of this pointlessly, purposelessly. There's a purpose, there's a reason why all of this is around us. And what does that lead to when you ponder about that? It leads to dhikr of Allah, subhanak. Glory be to you, Allah. When you start to remember Allah more, when you start to reflect on the ni'am of Allah, the blessings of Allah more, it creates shawq, it creates longing in the heart. Without, like, imagine somebody one of my teachers mentioned, how often do you hear the Prophet ﷺ told us to spend time ﷺ with orphans. The best home is the home that the orphan is raised in. أنا وكافل أو كفيل اليتيم كهاتين. He said, me and the person who takes care of the orphan will be in like this in Jannah. And he put his two fingers together, his middle and his pointer finger together like this. Why? There's many reasons. From the reasons that some of my shuyukh mentioned to me was that you understand what longing is. From the long list of the benefits of spending time with people who've lost their parents, people who growing up, they never met their parents, babies who grow up aitam, they are orphans. Even though they never met their parents, they don't know the smell of their parents, they don't know nothing about their parents. They grow up with a longing to know who they were. Yes or no? How many orphans do we know? It's a common thread. If you meet any orphan, especially if they know they're orphans, if they don't know, that's different. But if they know they've been adopted, children grow up and it's built into them. I wish I could know my mom and my dad. Even if they never met them. Literally they were adopted babies, the mother gave birth, she died, and the father was dead from before, let's say. The kid wants to know who his parents were. He said, imagine that's one created thing longing for another created thing. A human being that has a beginning and an end, with all their flaws in the middle, can long and wish to meet another human being that had a beginning and already ended. And you don't know who they are. They could be the most flawed human beings on earth. Sinful, backward. They could have the worst qualities, but that doesn't matter to the kid. The kid just longs to know who his parents were. So, what about what about the person who's created having longing for his creator? But that's completely absent because we don't think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't. Let's be honest with each other. We think about Allah in the capacity of, what can He do for me? Let's be honest with each other. Most of us think about Allah within the capacity and the scope of, Ya Allah, my bills. Ya Allah, my wife. The wife says, Ya Allah, my husband. Parents say, Ya Allah, my children. Children say, Ya Allah, my parents. Ya Allah, my car. Ya Allah, my job. Ya Allah, my this. Ya Allah, I want to get married. Ya Allah, I got married and it was difficult. Ya Allah, whatever. We only think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the capacity at which or to which He can do something for us. We never just think about Allah Jalla fi'ula and the countless blessings that He from moment to moment. If we all just took time tonight before you went to bed, and you just, in your own locality of your own body, started to think about the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you, I guarantee you, if you're being truthful with yourself, you'll fall asleep and you'll still be counting. When we have that type of gratitude, that's why Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said, Al-Iman nisfani. He said, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said, Iman is two parts. Nisfu sabrun wa nisfu shukr. He said half of it is patience and half of it is gratitude and being thankful. So the problem with us, my brothers, the reason why we're not motivated is because you don't get a paycheck at the end of your contemplation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason why we're not motivated is because an angel doesn't come and shake your hand and there's no fireworks at the end of contemplation. Right? We are nurtured, we're polluted. Our minds, and I'm talking about myself mostly, but I don't know about anybody else. Our minds are polluted with screens, immediate, instant gratification. We're not teaching ourselves how to delay gratification. This was something that if you grew up in the 90s and the 80s, right, before there was technology, we used to know how to do this. Right? Oh, when I get home, next month, next week, I ordered something, it takes 3 months to get to me, no problem. That was normal. Right? Delayed gratification. I do the work now and I reap the benefits later. Like the farmer. I plant the seed today, and in 3 or 4 or 5, 7 years, then that tree will bring me some harvest. Right? I heard a quote once, somebody told me that a real man is the type of one who plants seeds knowing he will never rest in their shade. A real man is the kind of man who plants seeds to trees he knows he will never benefit from its shade. Meaning that men, we do for others. We are supposed to be creatures as men, we're supposed to be well acquainted with delayed gratification. Rasulullah ﷺ fought in jihad for 23 years. Da'wah and ta'aleem and wars and harm. He buried every single one of his children. Rasulullah buried every single one of his children except one. Who was that? The only child of the Prophet to outlive him was who? Fatimatu bint Muhammad radiyallahu anha wa ala abiha afdalu as-salati wa atimmu taslim. But she died 6 months after that. But imagine you as a father, if you have children, burying all of your children, burying a lot of your wives too. He buried the most beloved of his wives, Khadija radiyallahu anha, the mother of all of his children except one. Right? He watched his siblings from milk pass away. He watched his uncle, who was like his father, pass away in the hal of kufr. He watched his other uncle die in kufr. Like what the Prophet went through in 23 years, assassination attempts. blah, blah, so much. So much the Prophet went through, starvation. And he made promises that he didn't see it fulfilled. The Sahaba saw it. Covered in dirt in the battle of Khandaq, when they were digging the trench, he was digging the trench with them. He wasn't up in his palace. He was in the trenches with the Sahaba. They came to a stone and they couldn't break the stone. Nobody could break the stone. So they called the Prophet ﷺ. And he lifted his pickaxe and he struck it 3 times. Every time he struck it, a flash of light, blinding light through Medina. Everybody was blinded for a moment. And then the rock would crack a little bit. And then the second time, same thing, blinding light, and then the rock would crack more. The third time he hit it, the rock crumbled. The Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, the blinding light, what was that? It wasn't lightning, it wasn't thunder, it's the middle of the day. And so the Prophet said, I was shown what will happen in the future. Imagine, this is a man now, Rasulullah he's in a trench, he's in a ditch with the Sahaba, covered in dirt. Enemies are in Medina, enemies are coming to Medina. This is not a battle. You have to understand, this is what like at Badr or Uhud, where they went out to meet people in the army. The army said, we're coming to burn Medina to the ground. The Yahud and the Munafiqeen in Medina are plotting against the Prophet, cooperating with the Mushrikun, and the Mushrikun are marching with thousands towards Medina. One of the only things they could do to defend Medina was to dig a trench around it. Vis-a-vis, that's why it's called the Battle of Khandaq. Correct? Khandaq meaning trench. Tayyib, he's covered in dirt. This is the situation, and he says, I was shown that you will topple Constantinople. Rome will fall. This Persia you'll conquer. And Sahaba are like, Allahu Akbar. And they believe the Prophet. It's not like they're like, oh yeah, right, Ya Rasul, look at us. They had not even a mustard seed of doubt. Right? This is love, my brothers and sisters. This is what Iman does. This is the man. And then he died, alayhi salatu wasalam. 10th year of Hijri. He didn't see Persia fall. He didn't see Constantinople fall. He didn't see even Jerusalem fall. Nothing. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Most of that happened in the end of the Khilafah of Abu Bakr and the beginning, middle of the Khilafah and during the Khilafah of Umar ibn Khattab. And what came later. So, and the reaction was what? We want to free Palestine, but when you go to a Palestine event, they're doing dabka dance. That's how we're gonna free Palestine, right? By dancing in the streets like a bunch of mindless buffoons, screaming in the streets in front of some embassy full of kuffar who don't give a crap about you. That's how you're gonna. But Qiyam al-Layl, no. Forget Qiyam al-Layl. To heck with Qiyam al-Layl. Dua. Oh, brother. We have to stand in front of an embassy and shout like monkeys. And while you're shouting, they're bombing. While you're shouting, children are being sniped. You think those kuffar can help you? We don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We don't believe in the power of dua? Qiyam al-Layl, forget about it. You go to a protest, you mix with the opposite gender, you hear music, you clap your hands, you shout, you miss Asr, you miss Maghrib, then you go home, you don't pray Isha, you sleep, you don't wake up for Fajr. This is how we're going to save Palestine? Ajib Allah. Our whole mind is messed up. These small little things that we're doing, my brothers and sisters, these small little pathetic attempts from your miskeen brother over here, and whatever we're doing, it seems insignificant. It seems insignificant, but it's not. That's like saying an ember is insignificant to the fire. No, it's the essence of it. Without an ember, there's no fire. You have to know who you're worshipping. When you make dua to Allah, you make dua to Allah based upon ilm, knowledge. You call upon Allah through His names and His attributes. And you only can call upon Allah through His names and attributes if you know Allah by His names and His attributes. How can you mirror and model yourself after Rasulullah ﷺ if you don't know anything about him? So how do we get these books, brother? It's an excellent question. Being from those books, some books, like you said, some Muslim families, you go to their homes and they have books, but you can tell that they are very unloved. They're neglected. Okay, they might as well be orphans. Sahulillah, with no home. They haven't been touched. I know, because I know families like that. I go to their homes and their books they're falling apart. Right? They're falling apart. They drive Jaguars and Mercedes and BMWs, and their Quran looks like it's seen better days, to say the least. So how do we motivate people to get off of the screens and into the books? Is by asking them questions like this. It's not by being polite and, we say in Urdu like gulabi type of, like mujamala, we say in Arabic. Like speaking like, like rosy, cheeky type of sweet words. It's not time for that. Right? It's time right now that the ummah needs to be grabbed by the shoulders and shook like this. Like, wake up! When you want to wake up somebody, my brother, I always use this example. I hope he doesn't mind. I've been using him as an example for like 15 years. My brother is a very heavy sleeper. My brother, my older brother, may Allah Azza wa Jalla bless and preserve him. I mean, he's a very heavy sleeper. He's very difficult to wake up. I remember when I was a teenager, he had a job interview. This is a very, very important job interview. And it was like time sensitive. Right? There's only a few people that made it to the stage, and he's like, I need to be there at this time, so and so time. 4 hours before he needs to be there, he had an alarm. He said, Ziyad, you got to make sure that I wake up and go. He said, I'm like, okay, I got you. When the first alarm went off, I went to my brother and I said, Bhaiya in my language you say big brother, I said, Bhaiya, wake up. Wake up. Hey, wake up. Gently. He still had 4 hours. When there's 3 hours left, I went, hey, Bhaiya, wake up. And I'm tapping him a little bit. Wake up, man. Come on, get up, let's go. When 2 hours was left, I was smacking him. Hey, wake up, bro. You gotta wake up. But when there was 1 hour left, I was shaking him violently. Because I hate my brother? Why was I doing that? Because I hate my brother? Why was I doing that, my brother?
Opposite.
Because I love him. Because I don't want him to miss his interview. If he's not there on time, they won't interview him, he'll lose his job opportunity. And then there goes, how many ever months of work did he put in? So as the time of no return comes closer and closer, the reminders get more and more loud, more and more violent, more and more severe. Correct? The end time is coming. Allah is sending us reminders after reminders after reminders after reminders. And these reminders will get harsher and more severe. Why? Because Allah hates us? Because He wants to destroy us? No. Because the time is coming near to the point where it's going to be too late. Whether that is as an ummah or that as you and I as individuals. Right? You'll notice this in life. The bigger the fitna that you go through in life, the more important the lesson is that Allah is trying to teach you. Quintessential. Something quintessential. You lose a home or a car or a job or a family member even. May Allah bless and preserve all of you and our families. I mean, things happen to people and they why is that happening? Why is that happening? Think about it. Don't be a surface, shallow, foolish, dumb human being. That's not the Muslim. The Muslim is introspective. The Muslim is introspective and he's not shallow. He's a deep thinker. He reflects. He doesn't just let life happen to him and then go on with his life. No, he pauses, he stops. He reflects and he thinks, why? Why is this happening? And not in a disrespectful way, in a real way. You know, subhanAllah, Bertrand Russell. You know Bertrand Russell? Anybody know Bertrand Russell? Very famous physicist, atheist, philosopher. Khabith, really ugly human being. Right? Disgusting. You know, very disgusting, very deviant. Like, you Google him, he's gross human being. But Bertrand Russell once was asked, you know, by a theist, somebody who believed in God. He said, what if God is real? What are you going to say to him? You die, what are you going to say to him? And he very arrogantly, you know, in his British, very cockney British accent, he said, he'll say, sir, I'm not going to do a British accent. He said, I'll say to God, I'll say to him, sir, why did you go through such lengths to hide yourself? Right? And I remember reading this and listening to this, and I thought, wow, what an idiot. If he just reflected on that question, he asked the question, طيب ya Bertrand, أنت يا مسكين, he's dead now, so he definitely knows if Allah is real or not, which obviously he's going to unfortunately learn. But if he had just thought about that answer, why has Allah hidden himself from this creation? Like nothing in creation can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this world. Right? In this world it's impossible. Okay? But there's a reason. If he were to follow that line of reasoning and to really reflect and think about it, what is the wisdom? What is the reason that Allah cannot be seen in this world? Why is he hidden, mahjoob? Right? Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says that there's a hijab, literally the word hijab, a veil between himself and the creation. And the hijab, the Prophet said, وَيُحِجَابُهُ nur, and his hijab, his veil, is made out of light. Nurun ala nur. Right? He mentions this in the Isra and the Mi'raj, when the Sahaba, they said, and what did you see? He said, I saw light. I saw light upon light, and I saw nothing but light. Right? Because the hijab between the creation and Allah is made this light. طيب. If you were to just reflect on that, Bertrand, Mr. Russell, you would have gotten to a very, very excellent question. You came to a very beneficial answer. But he used it, that question he didn't really mean to ask, he didn't care. He was an atheist, and him and people like, for example, Christopher Hitchens, who's also now dead, so he definitely knows the answer to his questions. They said things like, not only am I an atheist, but they said I would be horrified if there were a God. He doesn't like the idea to be told how to live his life. I don't want to. I don't want there to be a God. So I'm like, so maybe that's what feeds your atheism, my friend. It's not an objective truth. You want it to be true, so that's why you say it's what? It's true. Because you don't want to submit to authority. And Bertrand Russell was like that. He got into trouble with kuffar about the way he lived his life. He's very deviant. You could fill in the blanks. I don't want to say in the masjid. Very deviant. You know? Do a quick Google search about his life and the type of trouble he got in with the British government. Right? The type of thing, he had to run from places because he was being so deviant. Even by the kuffar standards, like, yo, that's wrong. That's gross. He's like, what's wrong with gross? None of it means anything. I don't believe in God. It's a big problem with these people, subhanAllah. So these little attempts that we're making, my brothers and sisters in Islam, these small little miskeen attempts, these are attempts to find our way back to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, through tracing our steps backwards through these people. Right, rahimahumullah. These people who spent their morning and their nights, right, every breath that they took it saying sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. They were people of hadith. Imam al-Shafi'i radiallahu anhu wa rahimahullah ta'ala, he used to say, إِذَا رَأَيْتُ صَاحِبَ الْحَدِيث كَأَنِّنِي رَأَيْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. If I see a person of hadith, it's like as if I've seen the Messenger of Allah. And they said, explain, what do you mean? He's like, because even if they didn't accompany the Messenger of Allah, صَاحِبُ تَنَافَسَهُ, they accompanied his breath, his inhalations and his exhalations. That's the hadith. Literally, the hadith are like that. We have hadith that we counted the seconds the Prophet held his breath. That's the detail. That's the amount of detail that we know about the Prophet. Alayhi salatu wasalam, the things he said, the things he didn't say. The things he said, and how long it took him to say it. And how long he said nothing between what the things that he said. Can you imagine? Like, we know more about the Prophet than we know about the first president of the United States. We know more about the Prophet ﷺ than we know about the first Prime Minister of Canada. Right? What Canada came into existence, what, 1840, 1860, 1870, something like that? I should know, I used to teach this nonsense, but I don't remember. It was 1860, Canada? 1867, barakallahu fikum. I was off by a couple of years. So we know more about Muhammad ibn Abdullah Abu al-Qasim al-Qureshi al-Hashimi alayhi salatu wasalam than we know about the first Prime Minister of Canada, or the first President of America, or Prime Minister, or King or Queen of this, that, and the other. We know details about his sleeping patterns, the way he used to enter and leave a washroom, how he used to clean himself, alayhi salatu wasalam. Everything. Cut his nails, wash between his toes and his fingers, how he wiped his ears, everything. How he wiped his eyes, how he wiped his eyes. Huh? Not just making wudu and then this. We have details about how he wiped his eyes. From Abdullah bin Umar and Aisha radiallahu anha. And then the difference between how he wiped his eyes when he made wudu and how he wiped his eyes when he woke up from sleep. Like, this is what we have access to. Right? He's there. His sunnah is accessible to us, alayhi salatu wasalam. So if that doesn't motivate us, if learning about the creator of the heavens and the earth doesn't motivate us, then I don't know what will. No.
I know just the knowledge about the Sahabas and the Prophet. At that time, I guess paper was invented later on, right? Paper, right?
No, there's paper back then.
There was paper back
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Chinese paper, which is still waraq sini, right? Chinese paper, which is still coveted.
And it was available to write everything down.
Available to a certain degree, of course. It was expensive back then. Like with a tablet, with an iPhone or an iPad or whatever, it was that rare, actually, more rare. If you had to be a city dweller or somebody who was like, mashallah, had connections to be, first of all, literate, right? To be able to read and write, and then to have access to pens and paper and ink. Those were the gold of that time. Pens were made, right, from wood. That was an art, right? Aqlam. And then hibr, or ink, was made back in the day. And if you know anything about this, I'm a bit of a nerd, so if you're like me, then you can watch these videos on YouTube. They still make traditional ink. It takes 2 years or a year and a half to make one stick of ink. So they usually make like about 10 or 15 or sometimes 100 at a time. Either way, it's a long process of boiling, drying, boiling, and then drying, mixing, right? So these things took time. Same thing with paper, smashing specific type of trees and specific type of plants and mixing them together to make this specific kind of paper, right? Some paper was not good, so all paper is not the same. So all of that was like, you have to take that into consideration. But none of this is an issue today. None of this is an issue today. Paper is readily available. As a matter of fact, we probably produce too much of it, right? And we use too much of it. Ink is same thing, synthetic, right? Now they're having technology where you could print paper, what looks like ink, but it's actually burnt onto the paper with a laser with that precision. It burns the paper to make it look like ink. It's an inkless printer. It's a laser printer, but it's like a new technology. I mean, when I say new, it's like 5 years old. It's pretty old for technology, but 5 or 10 years ago they developed this, right? So we have way more resources, and we don't even need to print anything these days. You have PDFs, Word documents, this, that, and the other. Like, we are the most privileged generation to ever exist, probably in the history of human civilization. And we are the most uneducated. We are the most connected human civilization to ever exist on earth, but at the same time we're completely disconnected. Our children know nothing about anywhere else. My son can get on his video game and play with a kid in Russia. And those two Russian guys, my son and that Russian kid, can then open up a chat box and invite somebody from Timbuktu. But if I ask my son about Russia, or if we ask that kid about Timbuktu, or the Timbuktu kid about Russia or Canada, nobody knows anything about anywhere. Capitals, populations, language, nothing. Nothing. You know, like, it's a very weird time that we live in. We're estranged from each other while being physically connected. But the people of the past, we'll learn. Today, we're running out of time now, but people would come to Imam Abu Dawood, and they would come from Yemen, 1,000 kilometers away. He's in Iraq. And you say, oh, how's so-and-so in Yemen? Like, he would know what's happening in Yemen. What happened to the fitna of so-and-so in Yemen? How's Imam so-and-so in Yemen? They didn't have email, they didn't have phones, they had pigeons, horses, camels, and donkeys. And that's it. As fast as a pigeon can fly, or the crow, if you're fancy, or the eagle or the falcon, which is usually they didn't send, because short distances they're fine, but long distances you can't. You have to send a pigeon. Pigeons, long distance, they're great, sense of direction. Or you get on a donkey or a horse, you send your letter with that person. It takes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. But they were that connected to each other. Imam would die in Mecca, and they would hear about it in, Uzbekistan. And they would write letters, grieving, like they loved each other. The ummah now, Pakistani guy doesn't give salams to an African guy. The African guy doesn't give salam to the Saudi guy. The Saudi guy doesn't give salams to the Yemeni guy. Yemeni guy doesn't give salams to this guy. Like, I go to a Somali mosque. That guy goes to a Kenyan mosque. That guy goes to a Indian Pakistani mosque. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? And all of this goes back to what? It's because all of it goes back to our disconnection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Suhaib al-Rumi, who is basically white, okay, he's from modern day Turkey, northern Turkey, but that time that was the Roman Empire at that time, right? So Suhaib al-Rumi, who was a slave in the Arab Qureshi community, and Bilal ibn Rabah, and they couldn't be more farther away ethnically, but they fought for each other, ready to die for each other, spilled blood for each other. Sah wallah? Like, even blood relationships didn't hold a candle to Iman. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, talking to one of his sons, I believe Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr. Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr says to his father, Ya Abi, and during the battle of, I think it was Uhud, he wasn't a Muslim at that time. Your neck came under my sword several times. Abdurrahman is talking to his father, who? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He's saying, my father, your neck came under my sword several times during the battle, but I saw you as my father. I said, I can't kill my father. And so I let you go. And Abu Bakr said, okay, that's great. You should be thankful to Allah that my sword didn't find your neck. Because at that time, if my sword had found your neck, I would not have seen you as my son. I would have seen you as the enemy of Rasulullah ﷺ, and I would have killed you. You're on the opposite end of a battle. You're throwing spears at my prophet. You're no son of mine. You should be thankful. And we are all thankful, because Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr became a great Muslim. And he sacrificed his life for Islam. Alhamdulillah. But the point is here, what? Abu Bakr didn't let the blood relation, that's his child. But you're throwing, what? You're throwing spears and arrows at my Prophet? Blood is not thicker than water. Iman is thicker than blood and water. But that doesn't it exists in our ummah today. But it's a rarity. As a matter of fact, Indo-Pakistani culture, in my culture, usually trumps the religion. If I tell somebody, if I bring a book here to this masjid, and it's not to specify this mosque, but I've done it many masajid, here and unfortunately other places too. In this book, it's a almost 300-page book, filled with narrations prohibiting isbal. Prohibiting what? Isbal. Anybody know what isbal is?
Is it nationalism?
That's unsuriyah. Isbal is to let any garment below your ankles. Okay? No more than 27 narrations from the Prophet ﷺ. No less than, I should say. 27. Okay? If I were to bring this almost 250-page book, let's just say, okay, take out the table of contents, whatever, and I read it word for word, it would take me 3 months or something if I did it once a week, or I don't know, 5-6 months, I don't know. I guarantee you $1 million that there will still be people saying, but Sheikh Fulan said this, Imam Fulan said that. This is our state. So, there's a lot of work that we need to do, right? And I'm not here to discuss the wujub or the whatever. No doubt, the madhab of Ahlul Hadith is the correct view on this position. 27 hadith. Somebody's going to come and say, what to me? I know. Brother, if you don't do it out of khuyala, it's okay. If you don't do it out of arrogance and pride, it's okay. Because of the hadith of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, perfect. Jameel Jiddan, quote to me the hadith of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. They just know that part, that's it. I'm like, bro, it's a long hadith. It's a long hadith. You're just going to come quote me one part. That's like quoting me one ayah of the Quran. Would you accept that from me to say? La taqrabu salah. Don't come near the prayer. Khalas, I don't want to come near the prayer. Am I allowed to do that? You have to put the ayah in what? Context and read the rest of the ayah. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا وَأَنْتُمْ سُكَارَى. Right? Don't come near the prayer while you're in a state of drunkenness. Okay, so I have to put it in context. To cut a long story short, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu tied his izar, and he's nahif jiddan, he's very skinny. So he tied his izar, which is the lower garment, lungi, ma'wis if you're Somali, right? The izar, the lower garment, and it would slip. And it would slip because he was skinny. So every time it would slip, he would retie it. And so one of the times it slipped, the Prophet saw his garment below his ankle. Right? And so what did the Prophet say? You're good? Abu Bakr continued to lift it and tie it. He didn't just let it fall. This is the part of the hadith everybody ignores. And so the Prophet said to him, don't worry, you're not doing it from arrogance. Why does the Prophet know? Because he can peek into your heart? Can the Prophet peek into your heart? Unless Allah gives him that ability. But by himself he can't. So how did the Prophet know that he's not doing it from khuyala? He's not doing it out of arrogance. It's a very simple question. Because he keeps lifting it up. Right? If I'm eating with my left hand, you brothers saw me eating with my left hand. Okay? And you know you shouldn't eat with your left hand, correct? But you saw me eating with it, you just let me eat with my left hand? Or would you say something to me? I would hope.
Your right hand is hurt.
But I would hope you would say, Brother Ziyad, you should eat with your what?
Right.
Right hand. Okay? But then you saw me struggling with my right hand. Let's say I hurt my right hand, it's in a cast or something happened, la qadar Allah, and I'm struggling, so then I eat with my left hand because I can't use my right hand, I'm struggling. Then you would say, I'm excused. Because I'm trying, but I what? I can't. I physically what? Can't. Abu Bakr was trying, but physically you couldn't control him, he's skinny. What are you supposed to do? Put on 25 pounds of fat? He's skinny. Allah created him that way. Sahara. Before you ask your question, brother, if somebody said to me, okay brother, but you know what? That's a matter of interpretation. I said, no problem. No problem. That's a matter of interpretation both ways. Okay. How about if the Prophet ﷺ said, he said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالْإِسْبَالِ فَإِنَّهُ مِنَ الْخُيَلَاءِ وَلَا يُحِبُّهُ اللَّهِ. Beware of letting your garments go below your ankles. The action itself is a form of arrogance and pride, and Allah hates it. That's hadith Sunan al-Darimi, sound chain of narration. The Prophet said, ثَلَاثَةٌ لَا يُكَلِّمُهُمُ اللَّهُ يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلَا يُزَكِّيهِمْ وَلَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَا يُزَكِّيهِمْ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. 3 people, Allah will not speak to them on the Day of Judgment. He will not look at them. He will not purify them. And for them is a tormentful punishment. 3 people. And one of them he mentions, الْمُسْبِلُ إِزَارَهُ. He didn't mention khuyala, he didn't mention pride or arrogance. He just said the one who drags his garment below his ankle. Brother, I can go on. There's 27 narrations. And that's just the base narrations. There's many wordings of the narrations. It's a 275 or 290 page book. طيب, all the madhahib al-arba' agree. Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Malik, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad. All of their schools agree that it's haram, and then within them they have some discussion. But the base madhab, meaning the mashhur of the madhab, is that it's haram. So we can have this discussion, but my point is that isn't it enough? My point is, isn't it enough the Prophet forbade us to do it? We can sit here and say, oh, it's a forbiddance of tahreem, is it karaha to tanzih, karaha to all these words everybody learns that they don't know what they're saying. Nobody studied usul fiqh, right? They just use these words because it makes them feel better about dragging their pants below their ankles. However, let's just say that there's some opinion out there, let's just say there's legitimacy, blah, 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 blah. Why isn't it enough that Rasulullah, Nabiullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Habibullah, Khalilullah, that the one who sacrificed his life for us, the one who stood at night for us, cried for us, till his beard became wet, till the earth around him became wet, till his feet swelled up, and he's crying, he said, Ummati, Ummati, Ummati. And then he went to Baqi' and he wept and he cried. Sahaba said, Ma yubkika ya Rasulullah, what makes you cry ya Rasulullah? He said, Wajadtu an altaqi ma ahbabi, ma ikhwani. I wish I could meet my brothers. Sahaba said, aren't we your brothers? He said, Antum ashabi, you're my sahaba, you're my brothers, but you're my sahaba, you're here. He said, Ikhwani alladhina yu'minuna bi wa lam yarawni. My brothers and my sisters are those people who will believe in me, having never seen me. He wept because he longed to meet you. Imagine the guy he longs to meet every Muslim. Even the Muslim who's standing in front of the mirror in the morning and shaving his face like this. He's directly insulting Rasulullah ﷺ like this. Even that person, Rasulullah is crying for him, making dua for him, standing up at night for him, because he knows Rasulullah ﷺ. But what have we done for the Messenger of Allah? What sacrifice can we make? We can't make 3 inches of our garments. We can't sacrifice for the Rasulullah ﷺ. A few inches of facial hair we can't sacrifice for the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. This is what I'm talking about. It's the absolute humiliation of our ummah, that we have such casual disregard for the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. These small things that we're doing, again, all of it is, the point is not Imam Abu Dawood. The point is not Imam An-Nasai or Imam At-Tirmidhi or Abu Dawood or Ibn Majah, right? That's not the point. The point isn't Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, or Ali. The point is Rasulullah ﷺ. He's the ghaya, he's the goal, right? Yes, my brother. Sorry.
Just along what you said about lowering the garments.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we're praying, I see a lot of brothers folding their pants, for example, during prayer. Does that invalidate your prayer if it goes below, like during the prayer, or is that just a sin?
That's a great question. Now, if somebody's praying and they have their pants below their ankles, then what do? Do they roll their... Because now you're between a rock and a hard place, like we say in English, right? You're between a rock and a hard place, meaning the Prophet forbade from folding garments for the purpose of prayer. Whether it's this or the bottom, the kaf or the both are called kaf in the juyub, meaning the openings of your thobes, right? To do this or the bottom, okay? So you shouldn't do that before prayer. However, you're also, the Prophet ﷺ mentions in a hadith, he said, La salata li musbil azarahu kama qala ﷺ, that there's no prayer for the one who has his garment below his ankle. Now, the problem with this hadith is that some scholars have mentioned that it's weak. Some scholars have mentioned that it's what? Weak. Like Shaykh Al-Bani rahmatullahi mentioned that it's weak. And so he said, so therefore, the prohibition is sound. The prohibition, that's a Sahih hadith. So we shouldn't leave the Sahih hadith to follow the weak one. You're still in sin, so you're praying while you're sinful, right? So you should think about that too. But your prayer is still valid. However, right? I'm sure, brother, you can hear me on the mic. Yeah, it's okay. However, you should know that hadith that I mentioned, that the one who has his garment below his ankle, there's no prayer for that person. There are many scholars of hadith who actually also mention that the hadith is sound. As a matter of fact, the Sadatul Ahnaf, the main and the most knowledgeable of the Hanafi scholars, they actually hold the opinion that the hadith is sound. And from the modern day scholars who agrees with them, who's not Hanafi, he's Ahlul Hadith, Salafi. Not that you know, if you could be Hanafi and Salafi too, but I'm saying that he's not a person of tamadhub, he doesn't have a madhab. If anything, he's probably a Hanbali, but he's a person of Hadith. He's Ahlul Hadith. That's his madhab. Shaykhana Shaykh Al-Allama Abu Muhammad Rabi' ibn Hadi Al-Madkhali, rahimahullah ta'ala, he held the opinion that the hadith is sound, agreeing with the Hanafi scholars. Okay, and that's not some small person. He's one of the muhaddithun of our time, main scholars of hadith. Like, very few people matched him in his knowledge of hadith in our modern time. Okay, some scholars mentioned that he was the Imam al-Darimi of our time, Yahya bin Ma'in of our time. Yahya bin Ma'in, we've heard his name, if we're paying attention, inshallah. Yahya bin Ma'in from the contemporaries of Imam Ahmad. People compared Shaykh Rabi' to Imam Yahya bin Ma'in. If he were to be alive, he'd be like Shaykh Rabi'. So he held the opinion that that hadith was sound. So what am I telling you, my brothers and sisters in Islam? Or this is a brother's issue. It's not a sister's issue. Yeah, this is a male issue. Shaykh Uthaymeen, who was a very soft, very beautiful scholar, fair-minded. Oh, sorry, I was finished, brother. Yeah. He held the opinion, he said, if the scholars have khilaf in an issue, as a layman Muslim, you don't know Arabic grammar, sarf, morphology, you don't know bayan and rhetoric of Arabic, you don't know how to you don't even understand the khilaf, the difference of opinion, you're just reading in English. If you're that kind of a person, then you should always follow the opinion that keeps you safe from the difference of opinion. Right? So for example, scholars argue, does eating of camel meat break your wudu? Correct? The Hanabila, and they have the most proof, so their position is correct. However, let's say you're Shafi'i or Maliki and you're from North Africa, right? You're from North Africa where they follow the Maliki position, and so you don't know what to do. You take the safer position. And if you eat camel meat, you make wudu. Because you're Ammi, you don't know. So you always follow the opinion that will keep you safe from the arguments of the scholars. Do you understand? Do I keep my beard this long? Can I cut it after a qabd? Can I do this? If you don't know how to navigate the khilaf, follow the opinion that keeps you safe. Leave your beard alone. Do you understand what I'm saying here? So this is my advice to you, my brothers and sisters in Islam. If we can't sacrifice a few hairs on our face, literally 2 inches of our clothes from the bottom, like Palestine, Sudan, Kashmir, these are far issues. We can't even wake up at night to make 2 raka'at and raise our hands, but we could do dabka dances in front of our embassy. We're not ready for freedom, right? We don't know how to emancipate our ummah at all. Our priorities are completely messed up. Okay? Leave off the dabka dancing and differences, okay? And follow that which the great scholars and imams, they followed. And when a narration comes from Rasulullah ﷺ, that's your imam. Your imam, don't forget, my brothers, there's nothing wrong with being Hanafi, there's nothing wrong with being Shafi'i, there's nothing wrong with being Hanbali, nothing wrong with being Maliki, there's nothing wrong with being a Zahiri, there's nothing wrong with being from Ahlul Hadith. No problem. The problem comes when an issue becomes clear from the Messenger of Allah and you say, I don't care. That's the problem. We forget that all of these imams, their imam was Muhammad ibn Abdullah ﷺ. Do you understand? That's the problem. So we need to have sincerity, and we need to seek knowledge, and we need to make sure that we never put the Messenger of Allah second to anyone. Second to who? Anyone. Like Abdullah bin Abbas Abdullah bin Umar, he said, when he was appointed by his father to go with the people on Hajj, and he told them to do Hajj Qiran. That's the Hajj the Prophet did. So he went, he got ready with the people, and he said, alright guys, everybody get ready for Hajj Tamattu', which is a different type of Hajj, where you do the sacrifice of the animal. The people said, your father said, we got to do Hajj Qiran. He said, no, but the Prophet said if I were to live another year, I would do Hajj what? Tamattu'. It's the better Hajj. Then he got ready, and then he looked at the people and said, they're like, no, your father said. He said, أَقُولُ قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَتَقُولُ قَالَ أَبِي. I say to you, the Messenger of Allah said, and you're saying my father said? I fear that the heavens will fall on my head if I stay here with you guys any longer. Do as the Prophet told you to do. This was the Sahaba, this was their attitude. We need to readopt that attitude as well. Yes, my brothers and sisters in Islam, today we didn't have a dars. Today we talked about, alhamdulillah, something good, the importance of the Messenger of Allah and His Sunnah, and learning about the people who brought the Sunnah to us. And inshallah next week we'll talk about Imam Abu Dawood as-Sijistani, rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah. هذا والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد